Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to our special broadcast on a wonderful, unique book that I must say left me with a sense of hope. And folks, this book has material that you can implement right away today. There's things in this book that will begin to change your thinking, change your destiny in little bite-sized phrases. But overall, I'm excited to share this with you, folks. We're joined today by a wonderful, wonderful rabbi, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. And to quote the Jewish Book Council, Rabbi Baars speaks to groups worldwide from the U.S. Senate and Los Angeles Improv. He's a regalia speaker at the Fortune magazine summits. He's also author of Bliss, the marriage and parenting book, and get this title, The Worst Marriage Advice in the World. He's the creator of the motivational seminar, Think Like a Winner, and he imparts everything he does with creativity and humor. But most of all, folks, this book, I found something that touched my heart, and I find it's something that can be inspiring to you as well. Rabbi Baars, how are you doing today? And thank you so much for, joining us out of your busy schedule. How are you?
That is a real pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. I'm very honored. Thank you.
Well, folks, I just want you to know I posted the link there up on the live broadcast if you have any interest in where to find his book on Amazon. I'm not here to pitch that because we know that that's not what we're all about, but more so in it is details from a lifetime of study and experience. And I'm so honored to have Rabbi Baars here with us today. Now, Rabbi, this book of yours, I find, you broke it down into so many different ways. You've got 3 parts and 23 chapters. Personally, I'm in love with the second part, but let's hit the ground running with this. And I just want to throw a phrase out from your book. If you could elaborate on it with us and share with us some of these wonderful secrets how to win. In page 131, you say, "No success in life will come from simply choosing easy goals. Instead, it will come from making your tough goals easy. Not only is making tough goals easy the way to succeed, it is the only way anyone succeeds." Can you elaborate on where you can? I mean, the difference between easy and tough. I mean, we're so naive. Sometimes we want to relax and take things easy, but then we wonder why life isn't going. Why aren't we winning? Please share.
Well, there's a great speech. You can YouTube it. It's a phenomenal speech of Kennedy, John Kennedy, making the announcement at Reed College that he could put a man on the moon and bring him back, right? And right. In that speech, he describes it, and he does it a few different speeches, how difficult it is. And there's one point where he says the temperatures and the pressures are going to be so intense, we have to build this machine, this rocket, out of alloys we don't have yet.
Wow. In
other words, he's telling you it's impossible, right? It's impossible. And we're going to do it within the decade, right?
Yes.
Now, imagine von Braun comes to him and says, "Listen, Mr. President, you're a nice guy. I like you personally. I really appreciate being here."
That was back in the 60s. And yeah, that was a huge leap just to even make that statement. And so you're saying the alloys didn't even exist and he made that bold statement?
Right. So he says, let's do something a little bit more reasonable. Let's put a man in space, right? That we could do. I mean, the Russians have already done that. Right? We could do that. We know how to do that. It's a little bit more than we do at the moment, but we can do that. You know what would happen? They wouldn't even get a man in space.
That's right. Right.
You see, it's only by taking the goal that really inspires you that gets you to do anything. As soon as you make the goal easier, less, you take out all those issues. Yeah, it's doable in a theoretical sense, but it's actually practically impossible. You'll never get there. You won't have a space mission. You won't have a NASA. It will be nothing.
Well, that's so true. I mean, so many people, Somebody had told me when I was young that you aim for the moon and you might reach the top of the telephone pole. But in reality, if you're not aiming high,
If you're
how,
not,
how,
right,
how are you
as
ever going
soon
to
as you,
achieve?
as soon as you take down the goal, and this
Right.
is what every one of us, right, every one of us has had in our lives missions, goals, visions that were
Yeah.
impossible, and 100%. And some of them really are impossible, right? Really are. Like, if imagine we were inspired for a minute to put a man, on Mars, right? Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, but let's say it's impossible, right? So, but that's not the point. By shooting for things that are impossible, that's inspiring. Orville and Wright, they said they're going to put a man fly, right? When they said they're going to do it, they didn't know that it was really possible to do.
Right.
They
Right.
didn't have the technology to do it.
I know.
They're all hoping. A lot of people gave up.
Let's face it, the moon missions, there's more computer in the average smartwatch today than was on those entire
100%.
missions.
Right. It's ridiculous. Right. But we have those achievements because people, right? The Sony Walk. You don't have to go to the moon. The Sony Walkman. Right? Remember the Sony Walkman?
Yes.
I'm old enough. Right? That started because people had boom boxes. Remember boom? They still have them.
Oh,
right?
yeah. They're even popular today.
The Sony Walkman's gone, right? Because Steve Jobs killed it, right? But the Sony Walkman, that started because the head of Sony came into this tech room and he said,
Right.
This is a box. I want you to make a tape recorder, right, that fits the size of this box. And they said, it's crazy. No, you can't do this. I don't want to hear crazy. I want to hear, this is what you got to do, right? And they did it. They did it, right?
Wow.
That's how you get anything done.
Yeah, you got to be a can-do person. And I've met so many people that have the mind frame that say, I cannot do, and they don't even try. And, it's phenomenal when we think of the great and grand missions that have gone on in the world. But even in everybody's everyday practical life, they can be more if they just reach out and begin to take those steps.
Well, everybody, see, this is a great misnomer, and it's perpetrated by, unfortunately, Hollywood. Like these, there must have been, and there certainly were, many, many moments in NASA's history. You read the history, and every single person would go, guys, let's just build a better lawnmower. This is ridiculous. It's crazy. Right? That's constant. Everybody meets those moments where it's impossible because that's the brick wall. Everyone hits that brick wall. Yes, it's true, but there's no alternative. You see, thinking, okay, listen, why don't I just pick something a little lower, right? You're not going to get anywhere. Steve Jobs changed the world because his vision was so big. There are lots of things that he wanted he didn't get. There are lots of inventions that weren't in the mix. He just couldn't figure it out. But in shooting for these incredible things and failing many times, he achieved a tremendous amount.
Wow. That's totally, amazing. I mean, page 425 in the Kindle edition, you said, listen carefully to what this means. Winning is no easier or harder for you than it is for anyone else, including the people who have succeeded. And I think you're just getting onto that. But think about it, folks. Winning is no easier or harder for you than it is for anyone else, including the people who have succeeded.
100%. See, I got a lot of pet peeves here. I probably need therapy, right? So one of my pet peeves is Hollywood movies, or these hero movies.
Yes.
Because what they do, and I grew up with them too, and what it leaves children the impression is, if you were touched by a certain electron, right, and you could be the Iron Man, the Green Man, the Lantern Man, the Superman, and they've got women in it, Wonder Woman, right, then you can take, or Harry Potter, then you can take on the bad stuff of existence. You can really get something. Right. But regular people, what can you do, right? This country was founded on an incredible idea. All men are created equal. That means No one's got the advantage. I mean, Steve Jobs wasn't sitting in the crib with a computer chip, right?
Right.
Warren Buffett didn't come out of the womb with a stock tip in his hand, right?
Right.
Edison didn't have to change a light bulb above his bed, right? They had the same stuff you and I had. They learned how to think like a winner, and everybody else didn't, right? Those ideas are just as easily available. One of the incredible things that you study the biographies of history is you see an amazing thing. Everyone, whether it's Rosa Parks, whether it's Nelson Mandela, whether it's Martin Luther King, they all had incredible success in remarkably different ways. And if you take their success and try and put it in your life, nothing will happen. And that's why people read these, they go to these movies about people did this, and nothing happens. But if you study how these people thought, you'll find an incredible thing. They all thought exactly the same. The ideas that make people win greatly are exactly the same. And if you can learn those ideas, you can achieve the same kind of success in your life. And that's what this book is all about. How do you learn the ideas? Steve Jobs learned them. Edison learned them. Yes. Martin Luther King learned them. You can learn them too. They didn't have anything. They don't have super goo in their bloodstream.
That's right. And so many people, believe that, they get in their mind frame to think, if I only had this, if I only had that, if I only had this, maybe I could do more or be something more or achieve more or be more successful, when in reality, it is the same degree for success for everyone. And we need to understand that it's no easier or harder.
One of the titles that Steve Jobs has, it's an interesting one, is he's called America's Biggest Failure.
Wow.
Now, why did he get that? You see, because all the previous heroes in history cleaned up their memoirs. Winston Churchill said, history's written by the victors.
Usually, that's what people think.
So everyone writes their biography and I was born with a genius idea, my brain fell out. And they all write these histories. I was once giving this class, and my son, who was about 8 at the time, was sitting in the class, and he said, that's not true. I said, what wasn't true? He said, Edison was always successful. Because that's what he's reading in school about the history of Thomas Edison. And it's not true. When you really drill down, you see Edison found, he says, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways it didn't work. But everybody fails. So Steve Jobs is called the biggest failure because he couldn't clean up his biography. So everybody knew his failures. He was kicked out of Apple, and he went... he went broke a few times. All the things that happened in his lifetime, right, were public. And what you realize is he wasn't unique. That's true with every person who achieved anything of note in life. We all go through the same junk.
Rabbi, I just posted a picture from the book, right? Since you just brought up Steve Jobs and you talked about Apple. You've got one little image in your book that's got a service information and quote of the day on it. And it says, if anyone is having a bad day, remember that today in 1976, Ronald Wayne sold his 10% share in Apple for only $800. Now it's worth $58 billion. So mistakes do happen. It's almost hilarious, but we do these things. Do we ever get over it? Do we ever,
You see, human beings are born incompetent. Nothing personal. Some of my best friends are human beings. Right? But you see, deer are born, within seconds of being born, they're walking around.
Yes.
My kids took a year. I mean, for crying out loud, it takes them 3 years to figure out where the bathroom is. I mean, how difficult is this? If the average person was put in the jungle, be dead within a week. I'll probably be dead within that, right? Yeah. Right? Animals are flying from trees, right? Eagles, first flight out of the nest, 80 foot in the sky, boom, they're going, right? Human beings are born incompetent. It's downhill from then on. There is nothing a human being does well. Nothing. You look at you look at the baseball, right, or soccer, or tennis, or football, or archery, or anything. You know why they're so good? Because they pay them a lot of money.
Wow.
You have to pay people a lot of money to practice so they get like this good. Because naturally speaking, we're incompetent, right? So you got to wonder, like, whether you believe in God, you don't believe in God, doesn't matter. Like, I don't have a problem with evolution. It's just you got it the wrong way around. It starts with a human being, and they got better, and the amoeba figured it out. It sits in a pond, and all it does splits himself in half. If that's all I had to do in life, I think I could enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Human beings are born in conflict. So you got to wonder, like, what on earth is going on? How come we don't have anything we do well? And the answer is we do one thing perfectly.
And what's that, Rabbi? I think you're going somewhere here.
Mess up big time.
That's right.
That's what we do. And those mess ups is putting a man on the moon, and it's figuring out flight, and it's this recording, and it's the internet. It's every single failure. From those failures, eventually came success. Eventually. Nobody, you said Thomas Edison did go, oh, light bulb. Oh, that's not how it works. That's not how anything. I know in the movies that's how they do it. But that's not reality. Every single person who ever achieved anything of note has exactly the same amount of failures as you, had the same amount of lack of confidence, had the same amount of self-doubt, had the same amount, exactly the same. You can. Wow. They did it. You can do it just as easily.
Yeah, we like to think in the apple falling out of the tree on its head, and there was no hard work involved. Bing, there's an idea, and I got it, and nobody else has it, and it's amazing that the world that we live in. Scrolling forward, one of the best parts for the book for me, when you started in the second section and you talk about, now this is really, I think, most changing for me anyways, and for a lot of people, you talk about the 3 most important days of life. And I don't think this is something that I will always carry with me going forward, the 3 most important days of our lives. Can you elaborate a little? I mean, I've highlighted some points in there that I would love to get out and make sure that the other people get to hear. But what made you come up with the 3 most important days of our lives? And what are they?
Well, that's a fascinating thing, right? So you see, again, right, human beings, the 3 most important days of your life are yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Right? Now, that sounds like, what? Like, what did you just say? Like, you're not saying my birthday, the day I wrecked my car? Right? No. Human beings have a unique ability to think about time that nothing else does. Animals do not think in the past. You can have two racehorses and race completely differently. 2 experiences, and they're both exactly, you can't tell the difference. But human beings are almost like you can predict with a tremendous degree of accuracy the kind of background they went through. Our history very much impacts our present. It's not the same thing as our present. Our present is a different experience, and our future is completely different. Animals don't have futures. They don't think in terms of tomorrow. They think in terms of right now. Lions aren't socking away half the giraffe, right, in a refrigerator, because who knows if we're going to have food tomorrow, right? They just don't think like that. Human beings think in these 3 distinct periods, and it affects everything. Unfortunately, we're not trained in how to think about them. Right. So we think about them in this mishmash way, and we get confused. And you go through the book and how, when you think about these 3 days properly, it's incredibly empowering.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you one very simple example, right? Very simple example that everyone can relate to, right? If I told you next week's winning lottery number, oh no, no, sorry, I've got a better example. Sorry, better example. Scratch that. Well, maybe we'll get to that one in a minute, right? If as we're having this call, right, your phone starts beeping off like crazy, and you just found out you won $1.5 billion, right? Everyone listening to this, right? Imagine the scenario, right? Are you going to wait till the end of the recording, or are you just going to go crazy, right? I
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
I don't care what kind of day you're having. I don't care that you're having the worst day in existence. You win $1.5 billion. You're having an amazing day, right? I don't care what's going on. You'll be agreeable. The next door neighbor's dog who poops on your front yard, let it poop, right? Instead, right? The mailman who's angry, okay, he's having a bad day, we'll get over it. Your spouse, your kids, I don't care what's going on. $1.5 billion, you're having a great day. Now, listen very carefully. Nothing has changed in your life one iota. Nothing.
Nothing.
You've got exactly the same problems. You've got the same life. You've got the same issues. The changes are going to happen in 3 months, 6 months when you get the money.
Yes.
So instead, you're thinking in that moment about your future properly.
Right.
You think about your future properly, you can have an incredible day today.
Yeah.
Most people don't know how to think about their future, and it ruins their present.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, there's so much to say about these 3 days. I mean, you talk about the past plays a heavy hand in our present. Just like the hand hidden behind a puppet. It's written all over our faces and in everything we do. And then further ahead you say, but as interesting as your past might be, it's not as important as how you think about that past. Now, you just showed us a glimpse of how to think about the future. And how, if we think about it, if you won $1.5 million, your whole mindset would change immediately because you see a brighter future, even though nothing has changed factually at the moment. But our past, it does haunt some people. It does hold people back. It's like a ball and chain. It's like shackles and burdensome.
100%. 100%. It's very, very difficult. So you see what's going on with their past. So if something's annoying you in the present, right? This present, right? You don't like the food you're eating, the air conditioning's not the right temperature, right?
Yes.
Whatever it happens to be, you can change it. The present is for change. Our emotions don't realize that we can't do that with the past. Our mind knows it, but our emotions don't tell us. Our emotions don't get it, right? Like when I was just in England, and in England they have cigarettes over there that smoking will kill you, right? Right? Smoking will cause a slow and pain, big bold letters, right? None of this Surgeon General thinks that maybe you'll get sick if you smoke in tiny little, right? Big bold, and yet people still smoke, right? Because our emotions are not the same as our minds. They're different beings. It's like we're sort of like this robot with right, it's the computer with emotions. They're just different things. So emotions don't know that we can't change the past. Our mind knows it, but our emotions. So we're thinking about the past in a way that's the same way as our present. And you just can't do it. You can't change the past. It's gone.
Yeah.
And
we need to know that.
We need to know that. So the book goes through that. Yeah.
We do regret. We do carry too much baggage in that regard. And I know that in your book, you really help people deal with it in such simple, easy terms. You say at one section, you say, however, let me be clear here. It is impossible to live with other people and not offend and hurt them. It's just impossible. And people need to accept this. I mean, especially in this day and age. I mean, people are carrying enough baggage from the past. But the question in this day and age is about offense. So many people are running around, you offended me, you offended me, you offended me. And they're actually living in the past, looking for vindication in the now. And they don't realize that they're like a wrecking ball with everybody they have contact with.
Right.
But even a lot of us say to ourselves, how can I make amends? How can I do this? How can I do that? We don't want to be cold. We don't want to be callous. But we need to understand it is impossible to live with other people and not offend them and hurt them. It's just impossible.
It's just impossible. You know, I don't know if you ever read The Far Side, like Gary Larson, right?
Yes.
The comic strip that doesn't do it right anymore, but it's hysterical. And he has these animals and they can talk and things like that. But you can look it up if anyone is interested. But I imagine like the future, right? There's not going to be enough therapists. And the technology is developed that they train dogs to do therapy, right? So you're sitting there and you go, you got to understand, like, you know, my sister came over and she really insulted me because, you know, she didn't, whatever, right? And the dog says to the therapist, like, you wimp, you know, do you know what I went through as a child? Like, my parents sold me, right? And my brother was run over by a car, and the guy didn't even apologize, right? What we get offended by, animals have on a daily basis. How come we are so sensitive to things that, like in the animal kingdom, is just half of the course? And the answer is we're hardwired for incredible sensitivity. That's the way we're built. We're Geiger counters on emotions. Wow. And that's very, very powerful because those emotions help you understand people and connect people. But they can be incredibly self-destructive if you don't know how to use them properly.
So true. So true. For years, I walked around feeling less about myself because of those that, you know, screamed how much I hurt or offended them. And it's not that I ever intended to. And, you know, so often, even the kindest word you could ever say to some people can offend them.
Yeah.
And, you know, you go on to say, Rabbi, if you want the present to be what you think it should be, then you will be one of those watching the last lifeboats leave the Titanic. The more a person tries to control the present, the more they are unable to adapt.
Right, exactly. Right.
That's huge.
Right. You're the guy on the Titanic's going, when's dinner going to be again? I'm sorry, I paid first class ticket. Like, this is ridiculous. All you've got on the menu is ice, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, there are lots of people like that, right? There are lots of people who just can't get you. This is not reality. This is not what's going to happen. It's easy to see in other people. It's very hard to see in yourself. Very hard to see.
It's so true. It's so true. And I've been oblivious of many things over the years. But we've all known people in situations where we just know they're not seeing what's going on, and they're just pretending it doesn't exist. Right. You know, the present's not what they think it should be, so they make it something that is only their little rabbit hole. And sadly, You go on to say in a couple pages after that, life has no time for wishful thinking about what your day should have been. That's what it means to live in the present. Right. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. You see, we all watch movies, right, where, you know, the guy's thrown in the jungle and he's got to evade lions and tigers and bad guys, you know, James Bond or whatever it happens to be, Tarzan or whatever. And it's exciting, Men in Black. It's all exciting because fun is like, you know, dealing with strange things that happen. Right? That's what makes life fun. Right? You want to see boring? Walk into a nursing home. Right? I have one nearby. I go in there now and again, and it's like it's like death warmed up. I'm sorry, you know, these are lovely places, and they're great. America's got a tremendous heart that we build these things for people, and it's what they do. I'm not criticizing that, but what's the killer is we make their lives so predictable, and nothing happens that they can't. It's impossible to live there. It's like boring as anything, right? We dream of excitement, but except when it happens in our lives. That excitement, those things, those strengths, that's the excitement. That's the fun. You start taking that stuff out, it gets really, really boring. It's knowing how to go through your day with the unexpected, because that's what happens. The world is built in a way that the unexpected always, you can finish the day and get everything done on your to-do list. And you'll wake up tomorrow and there'll be things to do.
Yeah, you're so right on the money. I mean, I do many things and I try to plan my day, and it just so happens that, the time I'm in the middle of shaving is when that emergency call comes, or
Right.
I'm in the shower, or,
Right.
and these things happen to us, these adverse situations, and we can either let it give us a bad day, affect us in the wrong way, and but when in reality, it's just adversity. Roll with it, live with it.
That's what makes it interesting, right? I tell everybody, in my classes, I'm sure everyone listening is living in a beautiful home. They spent a fortune
Yes.
to decorate, right? And it's meticulous and immaculate, and it's artistic and it's pleasant. And then most people, I'm sure everyone listening to this, has dedicated one wall to absolute misery.
What?
Wall.
Yes.
Right, to absolute misery. I'm sure you did it too.
Oh, yeah.
Some people have one wall in every room to absolute misery.
Wow.
What's that wall called? The television.
Wall of shame?
The television.
Oh, yeah.
A television only pumps in misery.
Oh.
You don't turn it on and go, oh, look, a deer is born in Wisconsin. Oh, tune in right now. Right?
Oh,
no,
my gosh.
it's misery. It's constant misery. And if they don't have enough, CNN doesn't have real misery, you turn a drama about misery. Or
Right.
Soap opera. Right? What's a drama, right? It's not boy meets girl, they fall in love, they get married, have kids, the end. No, it's boy meets girl gets kidnapped, boy takes revenge on the family that kidnapped them. The girl gets mad at the boy and doesn't want anything to do with him, marries his best friend, who then has revenge, and and the grandchildren finally fall in love and have children. And if you're watching that, CNN feels obliged to break in and tell you something bad has happened. Like, for crying out loud, I'm just enjoying the show. Leave me alone. Why do you have to call me up and tell me misery? Because if it isn't exciting, it isn't things falling off trains and planes blowing up, it isn't stuff like that. It's boring. The difference in an animal and a human being, an animal's peak existence is boredom. But other than the Disney movies, they love boredom. Let's say you go to the zoo. They're not pining to go to Madagascar. They're happy. They're looking at you idiots and go, you're just walking through this heat, right? I'm sitting here. I can drink what I want, eat what I want. I got everything taken care of. The lions aren't trying to get into the gazelles and eat them, because they just get as much as they want, right? Human beings, right? If please God, right, you win that $1.5 billion. You buy the dream vacation. You buy the dream home, 20,000 square feet. You have servants galore, right? You know what you do? You go play golf. Like, what do you want to play golf for? You take this tiny little ball and you're going to get in a tiny little hole half a mile away over grass using a bent club. Like, why? Why not just sit there and watch the dandelions come up? Because if you're not having things that are just crazy and exciting and difficult, you're dead. You can't do it. Human beings need excitement.
Yes, we seem to thrive on it. But you make another point. When you are consumed with making the present the best it can be, past resentments are squeezed out by themselves. It's an amazing, simple concept to prove. This is profound, Rabbi. This is profound. When you are consumed with making the present the best it can be, past resentments are squeezed out by themselves. It's an amazing, simple concept to prove.
Right.
Enough said.
Right.
Or can you elaborate?
Yeah. I don't care wherever you're sitting, right? Just push the fire alarm. All of a sudden, Right? Okay, fine. You can keep it. I don't care. Whatever you did, just get out of the house. Right? Whatever. Right? I was once in Los Angeles. This is years and years ago, and I'm in a big building, and it was in the restaurant there, and all of a sudden I heard a train go by. And I grew up in London, so I heard a train go by, and people start running out the building. And I go, oh, they must be late for the train. And then I realized LA doesn't have trains, underground trains. Right? I grew up in London. We have underground trains, and there's a feeling that when a train's going by, the building starts to shake. And I realized it's an earthquake. So, when you're going through an earthquake, I don't care what your parents did to you. I don't care any of that. When you're going through stuff like that, all your past resentments go out the window.
Amazing.
Right.
It's so true. It's so true. And if we transition a little forward, you start to talk about something you call the present mess.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. Everything that's what the day is. A day is always a mess. The
Yes.
world is built this way. We think that we can, if we had enough money. I know people who are like fabulously wealthy, and it doesn't matter what they do to try and they buy a condo, they put the money in the bank, it doesn't matter. What they do, you cannot stop the mess from getting into your life. There's always something. I have a student who's literally a rocket scientist for NASA. And he said NASA has figured out, like they've got the physicists and everything. And he said 1 in 50 always breaks down. Like, no matter what they do, they can't stop things from breaking down. Like, they don't know which thing's going to break down, so they have to build in redundancies. But 1 in 50 always breaks down.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Life is always about the unpredictable. That's just the way it goes.
I know, but what happens when it's not controlled? All of a sudden you think, oh, you plan your day, try to work it out with your wife. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to, and then something pops up. Whose fault? Somebody's got to be blamed.
Right. So
You start to transition as the book, and you start to talk about blame is debilitating.
Right.
Because
Right.
you want to change what has happened, but obviously can't. When you blame, you are caught in an emotional vice that has no relief. You desperately want a result different from the one you have. You also think it's someone else's fault. That does not happen if you are willing to learn from what went wrong. What we should do is learn from the past. To do that, you have to accept that the past cannot be changed. I don't think you could make it any simpler, but please.
Right. I'm a rabbi, so I've done a few weddings in my time, right? And here you have, like, it's the same. Weddings are all the same, pretty much, right? They're pretty much 2 people, guests, food, that's it, right? And the people you hire to do it only do one thing: photographer, caterer, hall, music, right? And nevertheless, right, every wedding has something that goes wrong. Right? You can't script it out of your life. So therefore, human beings, like, how come something's going? And we look for someone to blame, and that just makes it worse. Instead of dealing with it as in the present, right? And how we get out of it. And I said right at the very beginning, the people who succeed greatly think the same way. They don't think in terms of blame. Go find me. You can do it now on YouTube. A YouTube video where Steve Jobs blames anyone, or Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett. You'd be really hard put to do that.
Right.
Because they accept the problems that happen in their life and they deal with them. Thomas Edison's got to figure out, well, how come this stupid light bulb won't go off? I've tried it 10,000 times. For crying out loud, how come it's not working? It must be the janitor. It must be my accountant's fault. It must be my wife. He's like, no, he didn't do that. He says, I have to figure it out differently. All black and white. They didn't blame. That's a big secret in solving your own issues.
you totally put that down in the book. You say a person plagued with blame simply can't turn off the switch, because doing so would mean they'd have to give up their anger and frustration and accept what has been.
Right.
It's already been.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Blame is wishing what was wasn't.
Right. That's exactly right. It's incredibly frustrating emotion that is just the self-inflicted misery. Instead of accepting that that's what was, and it's very, very difficult to do. Right? You would think that we, in the world we live in, right? We're not, I grew up in a time that my parents lived the generation of the Blitz of London.
Yes.
I mean, there are people who have a lot of reasons to blame people.
Right.
The Germans were bombing London to smithereens. Right? Most of us have not experienced anything near the kind of misery that my parents' generation experienced. So you'd think we'd all be happy, right? Isn't because human beings are looking for blame. It doesn't matter how difficult, and everyone's got a justification for why they should blame. The problem is blame doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
It's a fantastic emotion. It's incredibly powerful, but it's amazingly debilitating.
Right? Oh. You then transition, Rabbi. You then transition in the book to part 3, and you start to talk about bad attitude, and you start to really get clear, and you say, whatever your attitude level, your goals won't exceed that limit. Whatever your attitude level, your goals won't exceed that limit. Thus, you need to raise your attitude to attain the life you really want. That's how to live. That's living real. That's winning, you say. Profound.
I hope so. I hope so. Right. You can't have a greater life than your attitude will permit. Raise your, right? And we all know this.
Yes.
You see a guy come into the office, right? There's a great scene. Gene Kranz, the guy in the Apollo 13, you saw the movie, who's the ground control. When they say that that's NASA's greatest, finest moment, because there are 3 guys in a tin can, 250,000 miles away, and they did not have the technology on board to bring them back. So Gene Kranz calls a meeting with all the engineers. These are all PhDs, brains out their ears, right? And he says to them, let me make it really clear. We are bringing these 3 boys home. And you need to know that. And you need to make sure everyone on your team knows that. Now, if you ask them, what are the odds you're going to bring them back? They'll say, pretty much not existent, right? Wasn't possible. They brought them back, but they didn't, at the time when it happened, it was just impossible. You did not have the technology, the forces they were up against. It's just ridiculous. And I won't go into it. It's a phenomenal thing. But the point is their attitude. He knew, Gene Kranz knew, there's the facts on the ground and your attitude. You're going to put a man on the moon? Are we going to do it? Yeah, we're going to do it. Your attitude. When you have that kind of attitude, you can achieve great things. When you have a defeatist attitude, and we all work with people who have a worse attitude than us, and they're debilitated, they suck the life right out of you, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what we need to focus on is people who have a greater attitude than we do. Let's be more like that. Let's up our attitude. It's not as difficult as people would think it would be. You can do it.
Yeah, it's just something we need to take in personal check, folks. Whatever your attitude level, your goals won't exceed that limit. Rabbi, you start to continue and you keep going forward. The book is just so beautifully done, folks. I really encourage you to check it out on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle and digital and whatever. But the point is, the details that are in there are just so revive, so bring you to where you instant change can happen if you just that makes perfect sense. Why haven't I been implementing it all these years? But you start to transition in chapter 17 to something you call Back to the Future. And you're really bringing your audience through a gambit of emotions, stirring it up, waking up what needs to be woken up in the human being for true living, and then you go back to the future. Can you elaborate a little?
Yeah, that's the idea. When you think about a great future, I said before, maybe we use this example. Imagine for a minute we crack the system on the lottery, right? And big data, massive computers, eons and money went galore, and we figured out the winning lottery numbers,
Yes.
right? And you got to buy this ticket from a 7-Eleven in downtown Kansas City on Wednesday morning, right? And the winnings are 2.3 billion. Are you going to be there?
Oh yeah, if it was a sure bet, why who
Right,
wouldn't?
100%, right? Now,
100%.
I forgot to mention that somehow the data says that you can only get there if you go there on roller skates. Makes it more
Well,
interesting, but you're gonna $2.5 billion. It's a dead certainty you're gonna win. But you gotta buy it at this particular time at this 7-Eleven in Kansas City, right? But you gotta get there on roller skates. I don't care where you live, right? You're gonna be there at that moment.
even if
Right?
it's on roller skates.
Right. Now, if I change it a little bit, you'll see what happens. If I say to you it's a 50-50, it's not
I'm,
100%. It's a 50%.
I missed that one statement. Forgive me. If
First time I said to you it's 100% certain you're going to win. You're going to be there.
yes,
But now if I tell you it's only a 50-50 chance,
yes,
all of a sudden you might be there. You might. But your motivation went out the window. Now you can
right.
buy a lottery ticket from your 7-Eleven just down the street, right? And it has you get to $1 billion these days, and you won't even go across the street to do it. Why? Because the odds are so great. When you take from 100% down to 50% to 1 in 100 million, you divide your motivation.
Mm,
The
so
more
true.
certain you are of the future, the more motivation you have today.
Yes,
How we
yes,
think about the future changes our motivation today. Now, people say, well, that's very good, Rabbi, but I don't know what the future will bring. And the answer is, yes, you do. You see, you can't control the present. When you try to, you just get frustrated. But you can control the future. And we've all done it. There were times when we said to ourselves, we're going to be an astronaut. We're climb Mount Everest. We're going to put a man on the moon. We've all
yes,
had those moments where we knew with certainty we were going to do it. And sometimes we didn't do it. But we were able to control our definition, our certainty of the goal. And when you
yes,
do that, you have tremendous motivation. Well, you say to me, well, if I do that and I don't meet the goal, right, it's going to be, and I talk about that in the book, but the point is you always have tomorrow.
yes.
You can always re-envision your goal and say, tomorrow we're going to figure it out.
But Rabbi, as you continue even still further in the book, you go on and you say, well, disappointment is therefore incredibly ubiquitous.
Yes.
No one escapes it. It is also absolutely necessary. Why? Because disappointment is the cost of entry to winning.
Right. That's
Amazing. I mean,
That's it. That's the whole secret.
you just gave us such a wonderful pump you up about having that positive outlook and having that hope down the road. But disappointment's going to happen. Are you going to hold on to the dream? Are you going to keep going? It's ubiquitous. No one escapes it. Understand that. If people understand, it's also absolutely necessary. Disappointments are going to come. Live with that. Be who you are, though, still. And even though, regardless of the disappointment, understand it's the cost of entry to winning. Get over it and go forward. Is that not what you're trying to get across?
100%. The problem is we live in a world that is teaching that if you're smart,
Yes.
you won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't have a problem with like criticizing presidents or leaders or whoever for mistakes. I don't have a problem. But don't think they could have figured it out. Like, I don't care what you what you search for in life or what you seek, everyone gets disappointed. And you can't predict the future. Despite what I said before, it doesn't work the way you think it's going to work. So you're going to get disappointed. The problem with disappointment is not disappointment, is we think we're the only ones who get disappointed.
Yes. It just like curl up into a ball, eh?
Every single guy in Harvard Business School is going to go through disappointment, and everyone in your high school, and every human being, 7 billion people. And that's what we're not training kids to deal with disappointment. And that's the whole drug issue. That's right there. But that's a whole different story.
It's huge. It's
massive,
huge.
because like human beings get disappointed. Animals don't go for drugs. They're fine, right? I mean, maybe the sloths do. I don't know what they're smoking. Because they're not disappointed. They don't have this concept of disappointment. We are disappointed.
Yeah, you actually go on, you quote someone like Babe Ruth who says you just can't beat the person who never gives up. But then you go on, disappointment separates the winners from the rest of humanity. Winners are willing to be disappointed, and everyone else isn't. I want you to think about that, folks. Winners are willing to be disappointed, and everyone else isn't. So many people, nope, don't want to be disappointed. I ain't going there. Don't want to be disappointed. I'm not going to try that. Don't want to be disappointed. Not going to. And yeah.
Right. To quote Babe Ruth, he said, his great quotes from him. And this is, as I said before, people who succeed greatly in life think the same way. He said, I shoot big. I foul big too. But never let the fear of losing stop you from playing the game. That's Babe Ruth said that. Right? Don't use disappointment as a force to decide what you should go for.
Yeah.
Go for it and deal with the disappointment.
It's so true. You go on to say there is no fun or excitement in a goal that is realistic. If you are not willing to be disappointed, you will never be thrilled with life. Wow.
Right. You go on a roller skate, the roller coaster, right, fella? And halfway through, they comes over the intercom. We're really sorry, but the brakes are broken. You might want to kiss the person you're sitting next to goodbye, because you might not see them again.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have a thrill of a ride. Why? Because it could be deadly. The reason you don't remember roller coaster rides like 5 minutes after they're gone is because you know they're safe. Right? The more you take out disappointments, you make the playground safe, the less fun they are. You can't have both. You just can't have both.
Yes. I think there's something key there, folks, that people need to truly grasp. I mean, you give another wonderful quote from Winston Churchill. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Pretty amazing.
Do you hear what he's saying? He's saying failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. You mean you're going to fail.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. You cannot go through life with any meaningful goal in life, right? But the tragedy is that people try to mitigate our disappointment by picking lower goals. But they get disappointed in them too.
Yes.
Right? Yes. You can't take out disappointment from your life. It's going to happen. It's just a question whether it's going to be something you really want, or second best. Well, since you're going to be disappointed, why not go for what you really want?
Exactly. And I don't think I've ever seen an author put it so clear in words that can impact that fast. I mean, it's just amazing. You then continue on with some beautiful, beautiful stuff. You reach something you call the fountain of youth.
Right.
No, I don't want to lose myself here. Let's see. Where did I? Where are we here? Fountain of youth. Babe Ruth quotes again, never allow the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. And, we've come through a disappointment trap. We've reminisced a bit. You got some of the good old days, but this fountain of youth, like Babe Ruth says, never allow the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. And you start to transition closer towards the end, and you start to share a couple of scripture verses. And I'm so thankful that you did. You didn't, your book had such a general self-help feel that it's available to anybody. You're not pounding down Kabbalah on somebody. You're just speaking the truth from your heart, from real life experience, stuff that actually changes, but you still bring in a couple of scriptures in the end. And you quote Lamentations 5:21, make our days alive again,
Right.
just as they used to be.
So you see, every human being has experienced the fountain of youth when we were young, right? You didn't lose anything. It's not like an ear was chopped. I mean, some people unfortunately did, right? But like you didn't lose anything. You had everything you had that enabled you to live a fantastic life you had when you were 5 years old. So why can't you reclaim that? That's the whole game. That's the fountain of youth. Right? You learn how to think what you had when you were 5. Right? In fact, it's so simple. A 5-year-old can get it.
Yeah, that's right.
You can get it too.
Well, we end up carrying baggage though, and the baggage starts to get heavier and heavier and heavier and deeper, and we cloud our minds, and we start to think that, oh, it's more sophisticated. Oh, it's more this, more that. And a lot of times we buy a bit of lies, and we actually don't truly live. We don't pursue that which we really want. And it really comes down to, where's your heart? And you even quote King Solomon from Proverbs 2, verses 4 and 5. If you seek it like silver and search for it like treasure. And then you give a really phenomenal quote from the Western Union internal memo from 1876.
Right.
And think about this, folks. This was a Western Union internal memo from 1876. This is what the internal memo said. It said, this telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. The device is inherently of no value to us.
Right.
Now, if that wasn't a failure, think about it. Some of you might be watching this on your phone today, and a lot of people watch broadcasts. Right. If you could close out, Rabbi, and give us a summary around this, if you seek it like silver and search for it like treasure, maybe we can wind down at that. We've hit our hour mark, but I want to say thank you, for even letting me read your book, and more than that, taking the time out of your schedule to share the joy. I can see the living and the life that's in your life, and I can see in the words that are in your book that you truly want to change people's thinking and change their destiny by it. And it's not as difficult as people make it out to be. People can win, and even Western Union dropped a huge ball. But please.
Right. So you say King Solomon said, if you seek it like silver and search for it like treasure. When he means silver, he means like the precious metal silver, and search for it like treasure. See, if we had a desert island, massive desert island, and we knew there was silver and treasure, we'd have to find them in two different ways. To find a silver mine, deposits of silver, right, it's just kind of pot luck. You just got to be careful. You learn from the past, right? You don't go over the same spot over again, but it's just a question of brute force. You just got to keep digging and digging and digging and digging. Not how you go for treasure. If you're looking for hidden treasure, right, the guy who buried it is going to make sure it's not going to be found by someone accidentally. So where would someone bury treasure? You have to think about it. Goals need these two things, not just the brute force to just keep plugging away and plugging away. They also need to think, and people often use one or the other. So they might just keep plugging away, but they're not thinking. Or they might be just thinking and they're not plugging away. You need both. If you approach your life goals using both of these techniques, then you'll get it.
Well, Rabbi, that's beautiful. Folks, I want to encourage you once again, you can go to Amazon and purchase Rabbi Stephen Baars' book. but more so, Rabbi, this has been a joy to share this last hour with you. And I'll thank you from the bottom of my heart. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. And please feel free to check out Rabbi Baars on his Facebook page and many other sources online. It's been an honor. And folks, you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please feel free to comment and like the video, and we appreciate it. Have a great day, folks.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.